Okay, the number one thing I see coaches doing wrong is they just don't have a system in place. Some of us try to, and when I was a high school coach, I was a big joke. I would say for the first year. After that, I really spent a lot of time studying, mapping things out, and after that, I think I did a very good job. Something that I think is important to do is you realize you have a bunch of beginners and you have kids who are experienced but who are only going to wrestle 4 months a year. Then you might have a handful of year-round kids who want to wrestle in college. So you have these 3 different groups of kids in your high school, and plus your youth kids are coming up, your middle school. So just think about this. Number one, have a system in place. Just write down your drill routines. Drill routines is that's a phrase that we use all the time. And we actually have a private team camp option. We fly around, going to Maine in 2 weeks. We do private team camps where we implement our system into your program, and then all you have to do is take a stopwatch and a piece of paper with your drill plans on it, and you just start drilling the kids. We'll say, number 1 guy, football grip, pull down, go behind for 2 minutes, go. Boom, blow the whistle. Number 2 guy, go. You do that maybe once or twice. Okay, then you work down the list and you just drill the kids through the drill routines. So, that's an option if anybody was interested. Obviously all of our information is at purlerwrestling.com. But for a coach that just is needing to dive in right now, basically just get a drill routines in place from all the common positions in wrestling. One day it's Russian 2-on-1. The next day it's single leg defense. Then you're online and you look at maybe a YouTube video and you say, we're going to show this move tomorrow. This piecemealing together doesn't work. Another issue I see is, not having the coaches on your system. So basically, as a wrestler, we usually have a great work ethic. Some of us have big egos, and we just want to do it all. You give someone a chance, you say, forget it, I'm going to take charge again. Learn to be a manager, and that's what they do in baseball. The head coach is called a manager, and he manages a staff. And that's what you need to do. That's what we do at our wrestling camps. I got great guys, awesome young guys, and they're taught to teach the way I want them to, and they maybe have a little spin on their style and whatnot, but the technique is the same. You can watch them at one of our summer camps or private team camps or academies, and they sound and act, and we're all the same. It's like making McDonald's hamburger, and you need to have all of your coaches doing things the same, whether it's this coach at the middle school, this coach at youth. Now the youth drill routines might be different. You might have a beginner's drill routine, then you have the advanced youth, and then you have middle school, and then so that's 3 drill practices. And then in high school, you can reuse those. So whatever the beginner little league practice plan is, that should be pretty similar to the high school beginner. They don't know a half Nelson. So once you have a few drill routines, and the goal is to get all these kids going, and hopefully within the first 3 or 4 weeks of practice, 3 weeks of practice, to have everybody on one drill routine, because keeping your hairline on the guy's collarbone to keep from getting hit with a headlock, that's something beginners need to know, but it's not something you have to drill 6,000 times. So hopefully after a few weeks you learn how to get off your back. We bridge, we drop and turn, right? You do that a few times. There's techniques for getting off of your back. There's techniques for pinning somebody. All the beginners need to know this, and it's not bad for your high school kids who have experienced to drill this a little bit too. But at some point in time, once you drill something 50 times, you're an expert for the rest of your life. And now we're ready to get everybody on the drill routine, just a core plan. And if you have your drill routines in place and your coaches are all in the same level, now you have a youth program that feeds middle school, that feeds your high school. Then once you're in high school, you have these 2 coaches taking the beginners for 2 weeks. You got the other half of the wrestling with the advanced kids, and you're working, and then within 2-3 weeks, those new kids are now part of the advanced, and they're all gelling together and they're practicing. And now practice is kind of running itself, and we call it, you want to develop a success machine. And once you have a success machine in place, it's something that can go. Right now on my cell phone I have a screensaver. It's a engine of a train, just because I'm trying to start a few things, as far as with our new gym and stuff, and I'm just kind of being lazy. And so every time I turn my cell phone on, I see that, and I'm like, okay, it takes a lot of energy and effort and power and fuel to get this train engine to start pulling all these cars. But once it gets going, I mean, you can't stop it, and that's one thing I've learned in life and through all the years in wrestling and coaching and whatnot. And so, that's what you're going to try to do. It's going to be hard in the beginning. You're going to want to maybe quit and start over, or you Google and you try something new. It's best just to find a system that works, or you implement your own, and you say, I'm going to stick with this until this force of nature is just moving on its own. And you can get a good success machine in place. And after 6 months, a year, your third year in practice, in season as a coach, everything's pretty much effortless now. Everyone knows what to do. The kids know what to do, and man, things really start to fly. And then you're not chasing your tail around, and your kids start to win. I would say this, that 90% of your success comes from 10% of the wrestling. So, you shouldn't be practicing, I wouldn't practice a Russian 2-on-1 to an inside trip. We're going to stick with core areas of wrestling. How are you going to beat a college guy? Put that on a piece of paper and drill that. The last thing I would like to say is sometimes coaches, we're too picky. We'll say, we have to get these areas perfected before we can implement the new areas. And so here we are, it's January 20th, and we're just learning how to get out of a front headlock, or we're just learning leg riding techniques, which we think is just vital to be leg riders. That's the best way to get your average athletes beating the best athletes, and how to get your inexperienced kids to the state medals and state titles is learning to control these matches. But but basically, if you're only starting front headlock defense and leg riding in January 20th, we have 4 weeks till state. Now you're behind the deal. So we like to say spend the first 2 weeks, maybe less, getting the whole drill routine done. Maybe have some long 3-hour practices. Maybe Saturday, have 2 days on a Saturday. You might go 9 in the morning till noon, or 12:45, 11:45, and then take a 45-minute lunch and have the kids come back again for another 2-hour and 45-minute practice. And you're just basically just throwing the drill routine out, and you're just teaching and getting them drilling. And it's not going to look great. It's okay. Once you have your 2 or 3 pieces of paper taped to the wrestling walls, and you have your drill routines now you have 4 months of season to perfect it. Now, sure, you might add something. Maybe one team is good at hitting a cross wrist tilt, so you're practicing your base, you're practicing your elbow digs on bottom to counter. So you might always shore up these little areas. The team is getting pinned, so you might spend a whole practice just on getting off your back, and go a lot of situations where you start on your back. So you're always stomping out fires. But the drill routine, the drill plan, there's 2 or 3 pages of drills that are taped to the wall. That's your drill plan, and you got it all laid out through the first 2 weeks of season, probably less. Let's say the first 7 days of season, if you have a long Saturday practices, and then maybe another long Saturday practice. And once you get the drill routines in place, then you drill through it. Now, you're not going to drill the whole 3 pages every practice. You're going to pick leg attacks and front headlock, and maybe you only get through halfway of front headlock. And this is outlined in our wrestling DVD series at purlerwrestling.com. We have practice plans. You can circle your practice plans, circle your warm up. Everything should be wrestling related. Then you just we have an index card approach. I pull out an index card and I put it on the bottom. Tomorrow I pull the next one, I drill it, I put it on the bottom. And so you drill through. You can practice the entire sport of baseball in 30 minutes. Wrestling and gymnastics, gymnasts, they don't do that. Today's my balance beam day, or maybe this, or maybe my floor. Then maybe tomorrow I'm working just part of my balance beam routine, and then I'm doing some other area. So wrestling's much the same way. So you're better off getting a lot of reps, say like 2 or 3 2-minute goes, 6 minutes of hard drilling from every move, and technique from every position. And you know, you might have 6 ways to score from a front headlock, 2 ways to get out, and then you got your high crotch and your double done with all 5 finishes. And then hey, it's time to take a break and we come back and wrestle live. Tomorrow we finish up our high crotch and we go into single leg, and then we're working our tilts. And then the next day we're just drilling leg riding the whole day. We might even get a couple of defensive things done. Then it's time for live wrestling, and you just rotate through your routine. And over the course of 4 months, or even in the off season, you know, the kids will start to get all of this, and you'll start to see their wrestling techniques sinking into their wrestling. So as a coach, I would get very highly organized, get a system in place at all levels, and get your coaching staff in place, and be a manager and develop a success machine.